I'm Luke Cooper. I'm founder and CEO of Fixt. We are Uber for device replacement. So what happened to me as a young man that set the foundation for what I would become as an entrepreneur? All those things happened to me when I was 12 years old. There were three things that were sort of critical to my growth and development and foundation as a young man. The first thing was, unfortunately, my dad went away to prison for 20 years. At age 12, we lived in one of the worst housing projects in the Northeast, and not a lot of people made it out of that, and he certainly couldn't escape from that. So, very critical moment for me as a young 12-year-old boy. But my mom just knew exactly how to balance that out. And so the way that she did that was one day she got us up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and took us on this tiny Cessna airplane. It was the first time I'd ever flown, and the second time she'd ever flown. And we toured parts of Connecticut and New York, and it was for the first time in my life I saw that where I was not who I was. And I later learned in life that, because I asked the question, much later, like, how did she do that? Like, we had no money, we were in the projects. And she told me one day that she basically, the week before that, walked over to the airfield, found one of the pilots and just asked them. She said, can you give a struggling family this experience? It was insightful for me because it shows me where I get my gumption from. I'm very, people who know me in sales circles and, just personally know I'm very, much driven that same way. The last thing that sort of happened to me when I was 12 years old was participation in a group called NEFTY, National Foundation for Teaching Entrepreneurship. And I built these solar-powered microwaves, and I cooked something in it, and I won my business plan and science competition at my school. And it just gave me healthy self-esteem for the first time in my life. The Fixt is really came out of the idea that we could revolutionize insurance for good. The problem with insurance is that it just doesn't function the way that it should. It functions less like a restaurant and more like just traditional business. In our minds, it should function like a restaurant. You see a restaurant, you like the restaurant, you take a look at it, you sit down, you have a great dinner. If the meal is good, the service is good, then you pay and you tip. And you've gotten great service. Unfortunately, insurance, you pay, and typically at the end of that experience, you have a bad, claim experience if something goes wrong. And so we wanted to change that and flip the paradigm by making it super easy to get the help you need right when you need it. And so Fixt is really came out of that idea. One day, the actual idea for tying diagnostics into all that we do was an experience that I had in Boulder. I was on a bus and I dropped my phone, and everyone around me on the bus sort of gasped and said, "Oh my God!" They were just torn at the fact that I could have broken my phone in half. And I thought, in the minute between the time I, looked at everyone's face and went to go pick up my phone, what if when I turned the phone over, I could give them some comfort that everything was okay? And began to toy with that idea, and that was really sort of the genesis of how we wanted to deliver our core service. It was a tough decision. I think places like Boulder, and lots of places around the country offer lots of things to young entrepreneurs. But Baltimore is a very special place. It's where my family is, and where there's an opportunity to do something really incredible. In two ways. First and foremost, there's just all this hidden talent that's around town that just gets ignored every day. And I think that there's just incredible promise in the young men and women in this town, in ways that, it exists in ways that I think so many people who saw me when I was a 12-year-old boy, I see the same promise there. In other ways, around the tech community, specifically in the angel investor community, I think it's burgeoning. I think there's a lot of opportunity and promise for young entrepreneurs to do something great here as well. It's a city that gets forgotten about quite a bit, but there are people who are really keenly focused on helping Baltimore get to the next level of growth. And I was very fortunate to have mentors and advisors and investors, like John Kamak and Newt Fowler and others that were very instrumental in convincing us to stay here in Baltimore and forego the opportunity to go to sunny Boulder. How did I get to Baltimore? I got here in a 1990 Honda Accord. I was just graduating law school, went to Syracuse, and I had job opportunities in New York City and Connecticut at 2 different firms. I just wasn't excited about either one of those opportunities. A good friend of mine, David Bramble, he's from Baltimore. He was graduating law school at the same time. I'd known him since college. Said, Luke, why don't you just come to Baltimore? And it was probably, I was 23. It was one of the craziest things I ever did. I said, okay, great, I'll just come. And I packed up everything I had and put it into this green 1990 Honda Accord. And I drove down to Baltimore. And I lived at his house at 1800 Madison Avenue for the first year I was here.